In the spring of 1979, at the height of the Cold War, a political revolution occurred in the nation of Iran. The longtime ruler of Iran, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was deposed. After months of political struggle, a radical Shiite cleric named Ayatollah Khomeini assumed power. After President Jimmy Carter allowed the Shah into the U.S. for medical treatment, thousands of Iranian students, encouraged by the Ayatollah, stormed the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. On November 4, 1979, 66 U.S. citizens were taken as hostages. Despite intense diplomatic efforts, the Iranians refused to release the American hostages until the U.S. returned the Shah to Iran for trial and execution. While continuing back-channel diplomatic efforts, the U.S. military began planning possible rescue missions. None of the strategists had previously executed a mission of this complexity. They had poor intelligence and no agents in Iran. Despite the limitations, Special Operations troops from the Air Force, Army, and Marines were woven together in a complex two-night plan. On April 24, 1980, nearly 6 months after the hostages were seized, Operation Desert One was launched. Bad weather and equipment failure on the first day convinced the mission commander to abort the rescue. While evacuating their night camp in the Iranian desert, a Marine helicopter malfunctioned and struck an Air Force carrier plane. 8 U.S. servicemen died in the ensuing fire. The surviving personnel were hard-pressed to evacuate before the Iranians arrived. What began as a bold plan to rescue the hostages ended in military failure and international embarrassment. The spectacular failure of Operation Desert One led Congress to thoroughly investigate Special Operations policy. It became clear that the mission's failure was the result of inadequate training and preparation. Subsequent legislation and increased funding allowed the Department of Defense to revolutionize the training of Special Operations units. Today, 25 years after Desert One, U.S. Special Ops units are the best trained and most dangerous in the world. Their preparation includes traditional military training in weapons use, hand-to-hand combat, rappelling, parachuting, night combat, and outdoor survival. They are also trained extensively in communications, engineering, demolitions, and trauma medicine. Most Special Operations personnel are assigned to particular regions of the world and therefore receive specific cultural and language training as well. Exhaustive preparation is combined with near constant mission planning and war game simulation, all to ensure combat readiness. To qualify for Special Operations, soldiers must demonstrate ongoing excellence in all their various areas of training. Their discipline and preparation are truly remarkable. Disciples of Jesus understand that we are involved in a great, largely invisible, cosmic battle. The advancing kingdom of Christ is strongly opposed by the kingdom of the evil one. At stake are the glory of God and the souls of men and women. The eventual outcome is certain, but the present battles remain fierce. God's reputation and renown will be spread among every tongue, tribe, nation, and people on the globe. He will be honored and worshiped by a remnant of all peoples. But the enemy is bent on denying God glory and destroying a maximum number of human beings. He is deeply entrenched in every culture, including our own. All of us are a part of this spectacular battle, even those who deny its reality. True disciples of Jesus live to joyfully advance the glory of their King. In doing so, they become enemies and targets of the evil one. In order to stand against this fearful foe, we must train and prepare. To make things worse, we face another enemy, equally able to harm us, an enemy able to turn us away from pleasure in God and His glory. Unlike the evil one and his minions, this enemy attacks from within. This enemy is our own sinful nature. Our sinful nature is that remaining part of us that can be enticed away from delight in God and His glory. The part of us that still seeks its pleasure, security, and meaning in things other than God. Fueled both by our connection to Adam and Eve's sin and by our own rebellious choices, the sinful nature fights against the things of God and His kingdom. In order to stand against this second enemy, we must train and prepare. Lastly, we face a third powerful adversary bent on turning us from God and His glory. This enemy is less personal, but still highly influential. The world system that surrounds us offers us a false vision of joy and meaning, one that promises satisfaction without God or the cross of Jesus. It is a lying vision thoughtlessly accepted by the majority of those around us, and it is endlessly propagated by our culture. It is the water that we swim in every day. In order to stand against this third enemy, we must train and prepare. But how? How do we train and prepare to confront these three powerful enemies? What chance do we have to stand against Satan, our sinful nature, and the world around us? We have no chance, of course, in our own strength. We must learn to exercise the all-surpassing strength and authority of God against our spiritual enemies. In fact, we are commanded to do so in the New Testament. The process of putting on God's strength is not automatic. It does not happen without sustained effort. Just as no one would expect to perform well on an examination without carefully studying, we can't expect to be successful spiritual warriors without thorough preparation. Many disciples endure repeated cycles of failure and frustration, largely because of inadequate preparation. For 2,000 years, the Christian church has taught that effective preparation happens through practicing the spiritual disciplines. Spiritual disciplines are not only for a few super Christians who have hours to pray and meditate every day. They are to be learned and practiced by every disciple of Jesus. The disciplines are proven means to more deeply loving and glorifying God. They are our spiritual vegetables. They're good for us, and we can learn to love them. Disciples who grow in the spiritual disciplines are not earning a higher status in God's eyes or proving themselves worthy of anything. It is God, through His grace, who works everything good in us. We don't practice the disciplines to pay God back or earn rewards. We practice them to enjoy God more, to hear Him more clearly, and to better glorify Him. Some of the disciplines are familiar to us. Most of us understand the value of studying and memorizing the Bible. We know that prayer is important. We recognize the value in worshiping God with others regularly. Some of the other spiritual disciplines are more obscure. Few disciples regularly practice fasting of any kind. Even fewer have pursued intentional solitude or silence. In regard to the